Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
Well, I'm pretty pumped up about doing this podcast because you've been a client for a while now. We talked about body dysmorphia, modeling, being an Ole Miss student, dancing, boundaries, a whole bunch of stuff. So I just want to give you guys a preview of what we'll talk about in the podcast before we start. Let's just start from the beginning.
Okay.
How you got to Oxford. So start for where were you born and raised, and let's just kind of go through the chapters on how you want people to portray you.
Okay. So I was born in Sweden, and when I was 3, my family moved to Germany and lived there for about 6 years. And then we moved to the U.S., to North Carolina, thinking we were going to stay for about 2 years, and we still haven't left. So clearly we really like it here. So I grew up in North Carolina. I went there from 3rd grade to the end of high school. And when time rolled around that I was going to go to college, I was like, you know what? I want to do something crazy. I don't want to go in state. I want to go out of state. And if I'm going to do it, I want to go to an SEC school just to have the experience of, I imagine SEC schools to be like the true American, like college culture you see in a movie. And I wanted the social life and the football games as well as the education, of course. So I was really interested in Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU for whatever reason. So applied to all 3, visited all 3, and then there was just something about Ole Miss. Like when I came here, I got almost like a deja vu feeling, which is very interesting. Like you know when you feel it. And I ended up coming here and I was like, you know what? If it turns out to not be for me, I can always transfer home and have that safe option. And it ended up working out great, and I loved it. And I was here for 4 years. And
holy cow.
Yeah. And I never thought I would spend 4 years of my life in Mississippi coming from Sweden. That's not like a common thing, but it happened, and I love it here. And I came back now this weekend. So clearly it worked out great.
And what's crazy too, I remember meeting one of your friends, and she really wanted you to work out here for a while, and she was like, you got to meet her, she's from Sweden, and she is gorgeous. That was the first thing that she talked about.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that was a really good quick story of yourself. Talk about your dancing. So that was very fascinating to me of what you did, because first time I was doing your assessments, I noticed you were really flexible.
Yeah.
Like holy cow. Like your squat, your movement quality was, if anything, I had to make sure that you didn't go through too much range of motion. And so talk about a little bit about your dancing.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because I was more flexible when I was still actively doing it. But when I stopped, I was like, I can't do all the same stuff anymore. So that's interesting to hear. But that was also something random. I really like unique things, I guess you could say. I was never really into dancing or anything like that. I was 6 years old at the time, and my best friend was like doing this dance in the kitchen. Like I never was that girl that wanted to do ballet or anything like that. And I was like, wait, that's so cool. What is that? And she said, oh, this is Irish dancing. So they had a class at every student at my school that I went to in Germany. You had like a elective hour, so you could take a cooking class or anything like that. And one of them was Irish dancing, so I ended up taking that. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And I just did it for fun. And then when we moved to the U.S., my mom was Googling, and she was trying to find an Irish dancing school in North Carolina where we lived. And we found one, and I started doing it, and they're like, yeah, well, we think you should start competing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could compete in this.
Yeah.
And I am a very competitive person when I set my mind to something.
You are.
Not just against other people, but really just with myself, to prove to myself that I'm able to accomplish things or do something difficult or, whatever it may be. And I got really into it, and I started getting really good at it. And, I started placing well. I started competing all over the world. I competed at the World Championships. I have several All-Ireland medals, North American medals, regional. It just really picked up for me, and I competed.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew you did it, but I didn't know you competed at that high of a level.
Yeah, no, the biggest milestone for me was competing at the World Championships in Glasgow, Scotland. That was
holy cow.
That was incredible. That was when I started competing, there was a movie that came out, a documentary following a couple of girls that were some of the top girls of the world at the time. And this was 8 years before I got there. And I told myself that day, I'm going to be there one day. I'm going to dance on that stage. And less than 1% in the world qualify for that competition.
Holy cow.
So it's considered the Olympics. If you make it one time, like, you've made it to the pinnacle of your career. And that was the first time in my life I realized this longevity of goals I could set for myself. With that, it's like, oh, I want to go to Worlds. Like, I think I was 7 or 8 years old.
That's when it crossed your mind?
Setting that crazy goal for myself.
Holy cow.
I was really young. And I did it when I think I was 15 or 16 when I got there. I knew it was going to take a while, and there were a lot of bumps in the road and injuries. And when I, became a teenager and there were other things and other interests that came up, starting to delegate that time and being strict with your eating and training. And when you're at that caliber to be competitive with other people, I mean, not only does it cost a lot of money to travel and the costumes and the training and all that stuff, you have to give up so much of your time to do that.
Yeah.
And it really, really messed with my mental health, honestly. But, that's something that came from me. I had incredible teachers. I had an incredible, unit around me. It was never anything that they did that was negative. It was just pressure I put on myself. And it was, you're training for a whole year for a competition. So the regional competition that's in December qualifies you for everything else the whole year. And you get, a total of 3 minutes on stage if you make it to the final round. And if you make a mistake, then all of that was a waste. And my last year I did it, I was one away from qualifying for Worlds. And I didn't perform my best that day. I fell on stage and got points deducted, and I was, I think, 0.002 points away from qualifying or something like that out of over 160 people.
Holy cow.
And it still bothers me to this day, and it's been over 4 years, because I'm like, I did this my whole life. I got to where I wanted to, but when I got there, I was like, okay, I can set another goal for myself now, and I didn't get there. But also coming to terms with things in life phase out too. I'm an adult now and I have other things I'm pursuing. I'm never going to be able to dance like that again. It's not something I'm physically able to do anymore because of how injury prone I am with my ankles and all that stuff, but I still love it. But yeah, that's a little bit of a...
Holy cow.
That got kind of long, but...
No, that was good, because I didn't know some of that stuff that you went through. How would you explain Irish dancing?
I would say it's the most athletic style of dancing there is. Mm-hmm. And the more popular it's gotten, the more competitive it is. It's not enough to just go to class. You have to train outside of that too. Yeah. Like when I was in... the top of my career, when I was, winning every competition and, placing really high consistently, being competitive, being noticed by judges, whatever it is. I was, going to dance class 4 days a week. On the weekends, we had teachers that flew in from Boston. I would drive, some weekends back and forth to Charlotte, which was about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Commitment, yeah.
Giving up my weekends in high school, not going to football games and doing stuff like that, to go train for hours. And not every day that you train is a good day. Any athlete knows that.
Yeah, no.
And having that mental toughness, I really struggled. It consumed me. It got to a point where I was so obsessive over it, where it was unhealthy. And that's not something I realized until I was older and more mature. But like I said earlier, that was just pressure I put on myself. Yeah. Just because I was so obsessive over, I need to place this higher. I need to do this, and I need to get this done, and I need to qualify for this or whatever it is. It's like if I didn't get that, it's like my whole world was caving in. Because I was putting so much time and effort into this because I loved it so much. Yeah. Holy cow. besides the classes every day, you know, I was weight training 5 days a week, and I was not eating enough.
Looking back now, especially with the knowledge you have now.
I was underweight,
Yeah.
and I was training that much, and I was sick all the time. I was tired. You know, I got migraines all the time, and that never made sense to me. I'm like, why is there always something wrong with me? Like, I'm so fit, you know, and I'm in amazing shape, and I wasn't eating enough, and I wasn't eating the right foods. And it's just because I genuinely didn't know.
No, yeah.
And that's not something I can blame my coaches or teachers. You know, that's not, you know, they can't control what I do outside of the dance studio or the weight room or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's not something I learned about until I came here, actually.
Yeah.
So
I bet you look back now and you're just like, no wonder why my body was hurting so bad. It's just like didn't have the proper nutrition to support my goals.
Not at all. And, you know, I wish I did. Who knows how much better I could have been if I had the right food and the right hydration. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And when you're that age, you know, your metabolism is so quick and your body bounces back so quickly from things. But now I'm so much more aware of what I eat and what makes me feel good, you know, regardless of what it is, whether it's food, whether it's a person I'm around, whether it's something I'm doing, just being more present and aware of what makes me feel good physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's really been life-changing for me, to literally reprogram my brain and think about things differently.
Yeah, because you've definitely become, I mean, just from my perspective of coaching you, you've become more in tune with how your body feels.
Yes.
Which is really, because it's actually, when you first came in here, I felt like, and this is what I perceived, that you felt like you were too emotional, like you needed to work harder and harder and harder, and you're just not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, your emotions are right, and how you feel is definitely right.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that we listen to those things and to figure out how we can fulfill those things.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And I think that whole mindset with, oh, I didn't try hard enough, that all comes from my dancing background. It's that pressure and being like, oh, I didn't do enough. I wasn't doing enough. And now I'm doing much less than I was. And I feel a million times better just because I've changed my approach.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that. Back then it was like, oh, you know, my hip hurts or whatever. And I would get serious injuries that affect me now, years later, because I just had that mindset, oh, I have to fight through the pain. I can't rest. I don't have the time to rest. My competition's going to, you know, they're going to keep moving if I'm resting.
Yeah.
It was that pressure, you know, like once you got up to that level, when you travel all around the world, you know, you're seeing the same people. You're competing against the same people. You know who your competition is. You know what to expect. And, you know, it's a different panel of judges. Different judges like different things, you know. One day you're great, the next day you're not. And to be consistent in a subjective sport like that, whether it's figure skating or gymnastics or whatever it is, you know, you have to be very well-rounded to do well consistently in a sport like that. You know, you have to not only be technically correct, but you have to perform and you have to be physically fit. And, you know, it's just getting more and more and more competitive because everyone wants to be the winner. Everyone wants to be the best. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to talk about it because if it's not a very common thing to do, but if you're in that world of Irish dancing, it's actually, it's crazy. The whole culture around it, but I love it. I've always loved it.
Yeah.
But it's extremely competitive, and people don't see that.
It's crazy how once you get in a world of like, so I race dirt bikes, and so it's like, it's like a small world, but once you're in it, it feels like it's huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that.
I absolutely feel that way. But yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm still friends with a lot of the people, and it's cool seeing people you compete against being in river dance and touring the world and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I bet you met a lot of cool people.
That's like the NFL of Irish dancing, I guess you can say. Like that's like the big thing, which is super cool.
Awesome.
I did a summer school thing with river dance one summer, and that was really fun too. And got to meet the cast and dance with them. And that's very different because it's cool. With river dance versus the competitive dancing, everyone's trying to look the same. You know, everyone's trying to look harmonious, but in the competition, you know, you want to sound louder on the stage or kick higher or jump higher or whatever
Got it.
the movement is. You want to like execute it so well that it stands out to different people, like your competition. But
So that would be the
river
difference.
dance, everyone wants to look the same.
That makes sense.
And that was cool too to experience that, because that's not something I ever knew.
Yeah. So like, is Irish dancing like a mixture of like hip hop? Is it a mixture of like ballet? Like, how would you describe it to people who've never even heard of it?
I honestly, I tell them to look it up. I don't think it's similar to anything. And it came from traditionally that, I don't know the exact story, but I know that they had, back in the day, they had these doors where this is like a myth. I don't know if it's true.
Hey,
but
speak it.
They had, the doors where it's like you can open one on the top, one on the bottom.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not mean to hit that. So they would have the top door open and they weren't allowed to dance. So they would dance but keep their arms on their side and just move their feet.
Oh gosh.
So that's why it's said that, you don't move your upper body. That's what's unique about Irish dancing, is it's all core and legs. And you just hold your arms by your side and you're doing, you're kicking your feet over your head, or like doing all these jumps, moving around the stage, doing all these things, and your arms don't move your side. And it's really unique. And I think it's really cool and very athletic. And it's something you have to like look up on YouTube to see what it is, because I don't think it's similar to anything.
It makes sense of why your legs are so strong.
Yeah. I mean,
because when we tested you,
if you literally see me or look at me, my lower half of my body is so much more built, and then I can barely use a 10-pound weight. But it's funny because I grew up skiing too, and skiing's also mainly legs and core. And then I rode horses, so I've always done lower body sports. So like, I'm very strong on my lower half of my body, but my upper body, no shot.
Oh my gosh.
I've never thought about it like that until I, started coming here and being more aware of things. And I was like, wait, maybe I should start working out my upper body, because I don't look proportional.
You're like an Irish dancer.
Yeah. Seriously.
It's crazy too. Like when you do a sport, you actually look like the sport.
You really do. I always think about that. Like one of my best friends, she ran cross country all of high school, and she has that slim fit like physique to her. And my other friend plays tennis, and she has she looked like she played tennis. Like, it kind of follows you, I feel.
100%.
Like whatever sport you do when you're younger, I think it has to do with muscle memory. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
How your your muscles build up and everything,
and just the hours you spent doing it.
Yeah.
It's just,
I couldn't even count. I don't think I could even put a measure of how much time I put into that when I did it, but I love it. I mean, would I do it again? Probably not. But
you could tell you were really passionate about it, because even still today you are.
Yeah, I love it so much. And I have so much respect for, I was at the same dance school my whole entire career, and they invested so much time and effort into me. And I'm very lucky in that situation. Not everyone gets to have that.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful team that I was with for my whole career. So.
And you probably friends that last a lifetime.
Yes.
Especially when you're training that much together. It's
and
just
you're
like
traveling together to competitions and everything. It's a very special bond. And then when you're at these big things you've been training for, and you see your friends succeed, it's awesome. Like, I remember my last regional, the one where I didn't qualify for Worlds the last year. That was just heartbreaking, because I tried to do it in college, but it just didn't work with my schedule. Yeah. And Ole Miss, people that don't go here, haven't gone here, I don't think they realize and understand the social culture that's here. If you're someone that is outgoing and wants the Greek life experience and all that, there's stuff going on every single day. And finding that balance and trying to train like an elite athlete at the same time, it wasn't possible for me.
Yeah.
And I was at a point where I was like, I don't want to sacrifice my time anymore. I think I'm kind of ready to do something else. And that was a very hard decision to make.
I bet.
But that competition, one of my closest friends I'd competed against since I was really young, she did really well. I think she placed third in the competition or something. And, I had tears in my eyes because I was so sad. But just running up there and hugging her and seeing her do so well I think she got second, actually. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Best she's ever done. You know,
Yeah.
personal best. And just seeing her and being so proud of her, that made me feel better.
But you helped a little bit, especially with just
Yeah.
being your last year.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my dance career right there.
I love it. That's some things I did not know. When did you get so fixated on goals? Because I was really young for you to think like, this is what I want to do. Like that's abnormal.
Yeah, I think the first time it was like a flip of a switch for me, and I was very young. I mean, I think 8 or 9. So there's like different levels you have to move up from. So you start as a beginner when you compete.
Yeah.
And you have to place, there's in that a governing body of Irish dancing, there's rules of how you place up into the next level and how you qualify for, the big competitions and things like that. So I moved through the ranks pretty quickly. Like the first time I was like, okay, I think I'm actually pretty good at this. Like this isn't just a hobby anymore. It was one competition where I just had a total blowout. I mean, I competed in 7 different events and I won 6 of them or something.
Holy cow.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm pretty good at this.
I think I'm doing pretty good, yeah.
And I just started winning a ton after that. And I placed out at that level. And then I got to the one before you get into, there's 2 championship levels. So it's called prize winner. And you have to win every single dance. There's like 4 different ones you have to win. I won 2 of them the first competition. And the next one I won 1. And the next one I won 1. I made the small goals. I was like, okay, I have 2 down. Next competition, I'm going to win this one. And then I'm really focused on that. And then I'm going to move on and do the next one so then I can get to the next level. Like I set smaller goals for myself, and I knew the end goal was I wanted to place at the North American Championships. I wanted to compete at the All Irelands and place there. And I wanted to compete at Worlds. And even placing at Worlds is like, not only do you have to qualify to get there, you have to be in the top 10% of your region. If you qualify there, there's several different ways, but that's the main way to do it. Like I said, less than 1% in the world qualify just to be there. Like less than 1% of all the people that do this get to go there and actually compete. So it's a huge, huge honor. Like we say, we literally say it's like the Olympics for Irish dancing.
Yeah.
And to place there, you have to place in the top 50 out of 200 or something in your competition, and then you have to place in that group. And imagine being the world champion out of all those people.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps. I mean, it makes sense too why you're goal specific. You just had these small ones, and you knew the end goal, which was to make Worlds.
Yeah. And once I got up to the top level, you're kind of, that's when you're competing against the best.
Yeah.
When you're at that, when you moved up there, not everyone even makes it there.
Yeah.
Not everyone, even if they work super hard, not everyone makes it.
Yep.
And, it's different for everyone. But once I made there, I didn't place for 6 or 7 months, all that training, and I'm not going home empty handed every day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I gotta switch up the gears a little bit.
Yep.
And then started getting 5th and then 4th and then 3rd and then 2nd. And then I was just winning. And I think I got to a point that last year where I was a little bit too comfortable. But I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna make Worlds. It's fine. If I was also a senior in high school, it's like, oh, I'll skip practice today. I want to go to the football game or whatever. And clearly, it didn't work out because I wasn't disciplining myself. And I think
just that much that you missed probably, a handful of practices.
Yeah. And I think that experience, missing that and knowing that it was my fault, really made me struggle about many things in life. Like relationships with friends, anything, minor or large, just putting all that pressure on myself, knowing that I screwed up.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because it's like, that's when a lot of anxious thoughts start to come in, because you realize how much your actions can actually lead to your outcomes. Mm-hmm. Some people have like the opposite effect where they don't struggle with anxiety, where it's like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Oh, it matters.
I think I've always had anxiety, but putting that pressure on myself didn't help.
Yeah, no.
And it's something I'm still working on, but yeah.
Now, you came to Ole Miss. What did you major in at Ole Miss?
Business marketing, and I had a minor in an emphasis in digital media. I dropped my minor.
I was done.
Yeah, no.
And then, and during this process, you wanted to pursue to be a model.
Yeah, so
take us to that. Where did this come from?
That kind of came out of nowhere too. So I always, my grandmother was my nanny growing up, and I spent a lot of time with her at her house, and we would look through Vogue magazines and cut out cool pictures we liked or campaigns, and she showed me how to make little collages with them. So I made a ton of those, and we would watch Project Runway, America's Next Top Model. So I've always gotten that interest really from my grandmother, and then. My mom and two of her sisters, they've always been very into fashion. So my grandmother would sew clothes for them and stuff. My mom is just interested in clothes and all that in general. And then both of my aunts work in brand marketing in the fashion industry. So
wow.
I've always, one of my aunts, I don't remember exactly what she did, but she did all the H&M. So she was with H&M, and she did all the collaborations that they have with the big designers. I don't know if they still do it, but they had Balmain one year, Cavalli. They did so many cool collections. So she, gets to work with these incredible people and go to Fashion Week and all that stuff. So I've always been around it, and I've always thought, oh my gosh, I would love to be a model. I've always been, I danced. I did musical theater for a while. I dabbled into that. I sang a lot when I was younger. I've always liked creative outlets like that. And I have ADHD, so I don't know if I can find something I can, focus on and lock in on and not have to think too much, then
you're rocking.
I enjoy that. And so it was after my sophomore year of college, my roommate modeled for an agency in Mississippi. And she's like, "Oh, I think you're, very beautiful, and you're tall. You should send your pictures then to my agency and see what they say." And I never thought that I could model because I've always had the perception, I've only seen runway modeling really, or commercial or print. And, you have to be that specific size, a size 0 or 2, and you have to be 5'8" through 6 foot. It's very specific with the measurements and that's changing now. The modeling industry is becoming a lot more diverse, which I absolutely love, and I will get into that later.
Yeah.
But to be fair with the, runway modeling being so strict on measurement, I don't know what it is off the top of my head because I don't belong in that category.
Yeah, that's
but true. When these designers make this clothing, it's, they have a mannequin they work off of. So it is for that size. If you're not that size, then the clothing's not going to fit you. And it's not like, oh, we don't want someone who's a size 10 or whatever. That's literally not what it is. It's just they're making one of a kind of pieces to put on the runway.
And you got to fit in it.
Yeah. And, some silhouettes just look more elegant and flattering in certain clothing.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I know I'm not going to walk on the runway for Chanel, even though I would love to do that. There's a very slim to none chance.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I physically cannot be that size because of how I'm built and how I was when I was underweight and I was dancing and training like that. I still wasn't that size. So
that's interesting that you knew that.
But some people are, some people just have the build for runway modeling, or,
It's not a bad thing.
No.
There's some people
but that's just for runway. When it comes to commercial and everything like that, that's changing now. It's that they want all sizes and everything. So but let's get back to how I got into it. I could get sidetracked so easily with this stuff, but so I sent my pictures into the agency, and they were interested in me and offered me a contract. And there was another agency in Mississippi that I knew worked with placement and working in other markets. And I was thinking, oh, I want to see if I can, maybe take this to the next level. We'll see, why not? And my roommate said the same thing. She's like, I think you should explore your options and then decide on what to do. So I put on some black jeans, black tank top, and some heels, and had my mom take some pictures of me in the living room which is,
That is awesome.
your digitals, as they're called.
Yeah.
For anyone who's interested in starting to model, you don't need a photographer to do that. You use your iPhone, you take them in natural light, no makeup, no hair done, plain clothing that show your figure. And I applied to over 120 or 130 agencies.
Holy cow.
Went on models.com, which is a website with all these agencies, and then some website with mother agents. I can get in that too and explain what that is later. But I applied to a ton. And I heard back from maybe 5 out of that.
Yeah.
And then I ended up hearing from that agency in Mississippi, and we had a couple phone calls, and that just seemed like the right fit over the other one. We were on the same page and everything. So I decided to go with them. And I was like, okay, Mississippi, great. I live here for a couple more years and can make some extra cash in college. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And she is partnered with a mother agent that is based out of Nashville, and she works with placements in other markets. So basically what a mother agent is like, they are the agent that's mainly in charge of you, I guess you can say. They teach you how to pose and they guide you. So if anything happens, if you're at a job, you reach out to them. Like they take care of you. And I love my mother agents that I have. I had the one in Mississippi and in Nashville. They're so great. And they've, I owe it all to them, everything that I've gotten to do. But she sent her pictures in to her, and she said she wanted me on board, and I was very excited because she's very, very selective about who she takes. And she has, curve models and straight size models. Straight size is, the 0 to 2,
right,
which is the terminology, that are very successful and work all over the world in every market. So I was very honored to even be starting to work with her. And, we had a conversation, and I was like, you know what? If you think I can do this as a career, I want to go for it. I want to do this. And that's how it started. I went up to Nashville and did a test shoot with her to, have something in my portfolio. And within 3 weeks, I was meeting with, I think, 8 or 9 agencies in New York.
Holy cow.
And they're, really big agencies that people that aren't even involved in the industry have heard of. And met with all of them. I ended up not getting signed by any of them, actually.
Yeah.
But I was in college too, and typically in markets like New York or LA, they want someone who can move there and work full time because the markets are so busy. And I was like, I already have 2 years of school under my belt. I want to finish school before I do this. Which I understand that would
hinder you. Yeah.
It would.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's okay. You know what? Whatever's meant to be will be.
Yeah.
And luckily, everything modeling wise has panned out very well for me. And that's not always the case, and I'm very grateful for that. But a couple months later, I signed with an agency in Miami and then one in Atlanta. So I started working in Miami a lot, and then the idea of Miami Swim Week came up.
I remember that. And
I was like, wait, oh my gosh, like that is something. I've always seen Miami Swim Week, and I was like, I can do that. I have the size for that. They want more like natural bodies and stuff like that. So I was like, wait, okay, I want to do that.
I want to do that. Yeah.
I want to go there. And I had no idea what to expect. So the time came around and I went down to Miami, and I had never done runway before. I mean, I was new to this.
Right.
And I'd never even shot swimwear. I had no swimwear in my portfolio. So I'm showing up to these castings with hundreds of girls, and you're standing in line for hours, and it's July in Miami. You know how hot it is? And it's like unorganized chaos, I guess you could say. Organized chaos. I'm not sure of the term, but you're standing in these lines. I mean, there's nothing anyone can ever say to you to prepare you for a swim week casting. You just have to do it, and you have to suck it up. And it was honestly worse than going through sorority recruitment at Ole Miss.
Holy cow.
And I don't say that lightly. But just being brand new to this, it was very overwhelming. And I think people perceive modeling as like, oh my gosh, you're just on the cover of magazines and you get flown out and get your hair and makeup done and do all this stuff. Like, yeah, you get that, but you need to get 150 no's before you get a maybe.
Wow. That is really good to say that.
Like, that's the thing with the agencies, if you really want to model that badly, like so many people say they want to model, but it's like, do you want to go the extra mile to make this happen for yourself? Because, it's obviously very important to have good agents that put you out there and, that you work with the right people.
Right.
But they can only do so much.
Yep.
You're the one showing up to the job. You're the one networking with people. You're the one putting yourself out there. And now with social media and everything, it's a whole other world that you have to go into. But back to this whole casting ordeal, you're standing in this hot hallway in high heels and a tiny bikini, like they want to see how you look.
Right.
So they can dress you in their swimwear. So you wear a black bikini, no hair, no makeup, and that itself a lot of people will turn away because they don't feel comfortable enough,
Right.
And you're standing in the line, you walk into the room, and there's a panel from the brand. So each brand has their own room. And you walk in and, you give them your little comp card. It's a tiny little sheet with your picture, your measurements, your Instagram handle, and your agent's name.
Gotcha.
So if they want to book you, then they'll contact your agent through there.
Kind of like an ID card, basically.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So you have a bunch of those with you that you give out. And I didn't have swimwear on mine. I'm looking around in the line and I'm seeing all these girls that I'd seen on like Instagram and,
Yeah.
with these gorgeous like swimwear pictures, like bronze glowy. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have that. Like, like this, and you walk in there. They don't ask you for your name. They don't ask you where you're from or how your day is going. You walk in there in your high heels and a bikini. And it's very vulnerable to be in there. Now that you think about it. But it happens so quickly. You walk like 10 feet across the room, do a little pose, and then they're like, okay, thank you. And that's it. I had one casting where it was one of my dream brands. I'm not going to say which one it is. But I was so excited. I got invited to this casting, and it was an invite only.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, it's like... walking in that show or one of the others is like the Victoria's Secret of Miami Swim Week. It's like everyone wants to be in that show.
Yeah.
It gets so much press and so much media, and all the girls look so beautiful and happy, and like everyone wants to be one of those girls. I was so excited. I was so nervous. I was shaking to walk in that room. And I walk in and they look at me, they have me turn around, and then they sent me out of the room. I didn't even get to walk.
What? Holy cow.
And that's when it really hit me. It's like, it's not a job interview. They're not asking me about my experience or anything, They're literally judging you based on how you look and your body.
Yeah. And
when you get emailed for jobs or, my agent will call me and be like, hey, can you be in New York next Thursday? Blah, 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 is interested in you. And I'm like, yeah, sure. You can't say no.
Right.
If you say no, then you're not going to get booked for that job ever again.
Yeah.
You have to, when you're starting out, you have to be fully available for everything.
Yep.
And so many people that say they want to model and they want to be the next Giselle Bündchen or, supermodel, whatever. Everyone goes through this unless you're the child of a famous actor or something and you just have the right connections.
Right.
Everyone has to go through taking every job, doing this, going to the castings, getting rejected. It's rejection, 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 rejection. And if you don't have thick skin and you can't handle that, it's not an industry for you.
Mm-mm.
I don't think that people think about it like that because they just see the final product. They see the Maybelline commercial on TV, the pretty girl putting her lipstick on, or, the girl walking down the Victoria's Secret runway. Like, those women train like Olympic athletes to get there.
Yep.
To get told maybe for years.
Yep.
And some people never even get to be looked at. If you're not confident in yourself and you can handle rejection like that. I luckily have not had a bad experience where I've been said rude things to me. Like every time they're, oh, your skin is so beautiful, or, you know, like everyone's been so kind to me, and oh, you're so gorgeous, the picture's great, whatever. Like I've always gotten positive feedback, which is wonderful, but I have prepared myself for the day where the negativity comes, because I know it's inevitable in an industry like this where everyone is essentially replaceable.
Yep.
If you can't do it, then someone else will, like that.
Yep.
Because everyone wants that spot. Everyone wants to be working.
And there's new girls that are young that are coming, and there's tons
new
of
people every day.
Yep.
And you can get dropped from a contract within the hour.
Wow.
If you're not working and you're not making, you know, the agency makes money off of you. So you know, if you're not booking jobs, you know, some agencies will drop you. You know, I have a couple of friends that have happened to recently. I luckily have, like, I love all my agents. I don't have anything negative to say so far about anything besides that you have to be ready to put yourself out there if you want to book stuff and be successful. But you have to be ready to roll with the punches if you want to model.
I just like how you gave, you know, potentially people who listen to this and want to be models, you just give them the reality check of like, listen, there's going to be a lot of no's and more than you think. And so that is very common to experience.
And I've only experienced, like, casting wise, I've only experienced Miami, and that's swimwear. So that's very different from what I would imagine like Milan Fashion Week or something to be.
Right.
But yeah, no, but it is so vulnerable. And even when, well, luckily I ended up, my last casting I had that week, I hadn't booked anything. So it's like 3 or 4 days of castings. I went to, you know, everyone that I could for the big production, Paraiso in Miami Beach. That's the big one that everyone wants to be in. They pay the best, and they have the best designers and the most press. And, you know, that's like, it's a really big thing if you book one of the shows. And I had one casting left. I did not feel good. It's hot in Miami. I'm running around like a headless chicken between all these castings and all this stuff, because there's different ones for different productions. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go. This one casting is about to close. I'm just going to go. This is my last shot. And if I don't book anything, that's fine. I've never done runway. I've never done swimwear. I came here and I did the best that I could.
Yeah.
So I ended up going, and I was like, okay, that did not go well. So it looks like I'm not, you know.
Yeah.
And my friend had come in to support me that week, which I really appreciate. And we went out to dinner that night, and I was crying, and I was like, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm not going to get anything. And I was so upset. And she was so kind, and she was there for me. And that made such a difference to have that support. Because, you know, nobody really knows what you're going through unless you're there.
Yep.
And then I'm sitting there doing my accounting homework on the couch next day, and I get the call from my agent. He's like, "Hey, J&P wants to book you for the show." And it's like making me emotional to think about it.
I remember you telling me that.
And
I was so excited for you.
I just started crying.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh my God. You know, like, they picked me out of all those hundreds of girls to walk in this show.
Yep.
And it was so huge. Like,
especially with all the rejection that you got leading up to that, you know?
Yeah.
And then finally be like, boom, I'm in.
Yeah.
After you just had a meltdown.
And also another thing that I want to say about the rejections for anyone that's interested in modeling, it does not mean that you're ugly or you're not good enough, even though it makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, if a client is booking a job, like, they already have an idea of who they're looking for. You know, if they want a certain hair color or a certain eye color, or they want someone who's more, you know, exotic looking, or someone who's more curvy. Like, I keep touching this microphone,
no, you're good.
But they know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So they can really like you, but if it's not the pieces they picked out for the show, you're not going to get booked.
Right.
And that's what I try to remind myself. It's like, it's not that I'm ugly or not good enough. It's that, they wanted someone who didn't look like me in that moment, or they already had someone very similar measurements and looks to me. Yeah. Like, and another thing to mention too, like, when you're booking for a job and they say they want size 10, you know, blonde, curve, whatever, then I'm competing against the other people that have those requirements. I'm not competing against the brunette girl that's
size 2.
no.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to wear the same things.
Yeah.
So that's another way to put it. But this show was just so cool. I remember going to the fitting, and the stylist who did Sex in the City
Yeah.
got to style that show. So I got to meet her and work with her. She was so cool. I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
And then coming to the tent where they have the show on the day, and Kevin Murphy, his team is doing the hair, and I don't remember who is doing the makeup, but it was so cool just getting my hair and makeup done, and all the hustle and bustle and the cameras. It's like, it felt like, this is gonna sound cheesy, but when you watch like the Victoria's Secret show on the TV and you see all the behind the scenes, like I felt like I was there. And then you're getting dressed, and then you turn the corner and you walk out, and it's all these bright lights and this whole audience, and at the end of the runway is like 400 cameras.
Wow.
Like,
wow.
I wish I had a photo to show you. Like, what I see from my perspective is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you mess up or fall or do anything, you
It's
have
all on camera.
all those people
Yep.
videoing pictures, like whatever. Getty Images is there. Like this is going to be on the internet forever type thing. But it's so huge if you make it, because you're going to get all this press.
Yep.
For yourself. But here's another thing. With things like that, people think you make so much money from runway. That's what pays the least.
Wow. I would have never done that.
Yeah. And I can only speak from my experience and what I know, but the 2 years I've done Miami Swim Week, I've booked shows this year and last year. Mm-hmm. I didn't even make back a fourth of what I spent.
Wow.
Which is fine. I mean,
because it's a start.
Yeah. Like I was anticipating this, and I knew this, and I had to save up for a long time to do this, but I knew that it's a big honor to be there and work there and be in the show, and it's a big networking thing, and you get to work with all these amazing people and get the experience. I personally have never, broken even.
Right.
But, there are people that do,
right.
that book every single show and all this stuff, and that's awesome. I would love to get to that point, but
right.
But that's another thing too. When you're starting modeling, you're not going to be making money to pay rent off the jump. Very rarely you will.
Right.
And on top of that, it takes a couple months to get paid, because the client has to pay the agent, and then the agent, gets a percentage of what you make, and then you need to be paid. So you have a 3-month period to get paid. So like the jobs I did in July, for instance, I still haven't been paid yet.
Yeah.
But that's because my agent hasn't been paid yet either.
Right.
So
it has to go through a process.
Yeah. So, you have to be aware of that as well. If this is something you want to pursue, that you're going to have another source of income when you're getting started.
Yeah.
And once you get to a point, which I hope to get to, hopefully, where you're booking so much stuff and you're making all this money, then you don't need to do that. But you have to work your way up there.
Right.
It's not given to you overnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, that show was incredible. That whole team was so great. It was so fun. And I didn't know this at the time because I don't watch a lot of TV, but the show was aired on Siesta Key.
Wow.
Because one of the designers of the brand, her name's Juliet, she's on that show. So they aired parts of the show on MTV. And that's another thing I grew up watching with my grandma was MTV. And I'm like, whoa, like this is
so cool.
This is such a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Like everything that I did as a kid is like happening for me as an adult. And that's never something I ever imagined would actually happen. It was always something like a dream in the back of my head. But now that I'm starting to do it, I'm starting to apply these goals to myself, and I'm just really enjoying it. I think it's so much fun.
Yeah.
When you do get booked for something, you show up and you get your hair and makeup done. You get to meet these, the other models and stuff. Another thing, I'm getting really into it now, but another thing, when you go to the jobs, you're with new people every time. It gets very lonely.
That's really good that you bring that up.
It gets very lonely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, if the day comes where this is something that I can do full time, if I, get booked that much, I'm going to be spending a lot of time alone.
Yep.
And, when I'm traveling to these jobs and, I'm going by myself, I'm staying alone in the hotel room.
Yep.
I'm Ubering to a place where I don't know a single person.
Right.
And might not ever see them ever again. You don't know. There's new production, there's new crew, there's new hair and makeup and new people every time you work somewhere. You just, that's another thing. You have to be very comfortable being with yourself, and you have to be very comfortable talking to people and being kind. You want to be professional.
Right.
You don't want to be rude. And, if you don't like your hair or makeup, then you're not the one that gets to decide that. The client has, they booked you for a reason. The reason why you have these digital photos is because it's like you're a clean canvas.
Right.
So they can see if you fit what they want for their brand or their product or event or whatever you're modeling for. And you have to, you have to do as you're told.
Yep.
That's another thing. If you don't like to have people tell you what to do, then, but I don't mind it. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I love the creative aspect and being around other creative people and having them push my limits with stuff too, with whether it's hair, makeup, or a pose or whatever.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And what's crazy too is like you just laid down like the expectations that when somebody goes in there, of the realistic view of like what to expect.
Yes, but it is incredibly rewarding. Yeah. But I have seen on TikTok, people talking about modeling and stuff, and you do get a lot of, you get invited to events and parties and free dinners and things like that. Like you get all that stuff. There's a lot of perks to it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be transparent of how it really is, because it's not the glamorous lifestyle where you're partying with like famous people and doing all this stuff. I mean, you do that. Yeah. But
that's like 1% of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, if you're not getting booked for jobs, then you're just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
And, I've had a couple dead periods in, my time doing this. I'm not someone that has a job booked every week.
Right.
I would love to get there. I just signed in New York and LA in July, which was so cool.
Yeah. Congrats on that.
So excited about that. I never ever thought it would get to this. Like I was happy with the Miami stuff because I love Miami, and luckily one of my really good friends from college lives there. So that's nice. So every time I'm in Miami, I have her to hang out with and see,
it helps.
Which is great with the whole lonely part that I was talking about. But you do make friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've made a bunch of model friends and stuff. So we'll see each other again. I know that, but yeah, we'll see. I'm headed to New York sometime in October to do a shoot up there. I need something more like high fashion for my portfolio.
Yeah.
So working on that with my mother agent right now, and I'm very excited.
That is exciting.
Because it's something I haven't done. I've done a lot of like e-commerce and commercial jobs, but never anything more editorial and edgy and all that. So that's another thing. Having the creative direction and trying something different.
Which I think will actually suit you really well.
Yeah. Like one day is not like the other.
Right.
If you can put it that way.
Yeah.
Which I love because it keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
There is like a lot of information when it comes to this stuff, at least from my personal experience.
Yeah.
But I've only done it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm now out of college. I haven't even gone to LA or New York yet, so I have no clue how that's going to be.
Right.
But it's exciting to me because I know it's,
that's the next step.
It is the next step. It's the next level. I'm, anticipating it's going to be a lot more competitive, and that's okay. This has been my dream forever.
Yep.
And now it's happening. So.
Yeah. And you've been putting the work in because you said you've lost, 7 pounds?
Yes. I think it wasn't necessarily, so I'm considered curve. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. I typically wear a size 8 or 10, just because I have wider hips.
Tell them how tall you are and how much you weigh, so that way the audience has a...
Yeah. So I'm 5'9". I currently weigh 168. There was a time towards the end of my senior year of college, I just wasn't taking care of myself. It was just really getting to me, and I was like, oh, I have FOMO a lot. And I've had to work on that to be a lot better about setting boundaries and saying no to people about things. But senior year, I was like, I want to do everything. I'm saying yes to everything. If my friends are going out on a Tuesday, I'm going out too.
Right.
And it caught up to me really bad. I mean, all of that, the partying and not eating well and feeling like crap all the time because I'm hungover, and then taking the hardest classes I've ever taken in my life.
Yep.
And having the anxiety of, oh my God, I'm graduating in 3 months. I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
Yep.
All of that rolled into one. I was just so stressed and my hormones were out of whack. I was gaining weight. I was so swollen. Like my whole body was inflamed. I was not drinking enough water. I just wasn't prioritizing my health whatsoever. And when graduation rolled around, I felt horrible.
Yeah.
I just did not feel good. And I knew that, moving home and doing a reset was going to help me. So the last couple months, I've just really buckled down on trying to move my body every day. Yeah. Even if I can't get in the gym, go for a walk, go outside.
Yep.
Just trying to recreate healthy habits for myself now that I don't have the pressure of, the college party lifestyle.
Sorority, all that stuff.
Yeah. So none of that. And not having the academic pressure anymore. That's another thing that gave me so much anxiety.
That's a lot.
Tests, exams, all that. It's hard.
Yeah.
College is so hard.
Yeah.
And people think like, oh, Ole Miss, everyone just goes and has fun there. We have a great time. We say never lost a party. I stand by that. Ole Miss is awesome. Like if you want to have fun, like you will have it
fun.
here.
That's right.
There's always something to do.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Mm-mm.
I'm from 12 hours away.
Yep.
Adjusting, and I'm even from the South, technically. Like North Carolina is the South. I know a lot of people, Mississippi, are like, oh, that's not the South. It's not the deep South. But Mississippi is a very unique culture.
Yep.
And not everyone is going to adjust well to that.
Right.
I think Ole Miss is an acquired taste. You either love it and you are like ride or die Ole Miss until the day you die, or you don't love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I loved it. I'm a ride or die Ole Miss girl, but
right.
It's not for everyone. I had a really tough time adjusting here. Even going to, the culture is different, and I'm still technically from the South.
Yep.
Having that adjustment, and also I didn't know anyone. Like being here, not knowing anybody, putting yourself out there. But I grew so much as a person. I don't think I would have had the experiences and the friends and even the modeling stuff. I don't think any of this would have happened if I didn't come here.
Yeah.
And like it literally, coming to Ole Miss literally changed my life in so many ways, in so many positive ways. And that sounds cheesy to say it, but I genuinely mean so. Like I think it was meant to be for me to be here for 4 years and have the experience. But yeah, when I was done with school and moved home, I was like, I need to buckle down. And luckily, having my mom and my brother at home, they're also very health conscious. So having their encouragement and, all of us holding each other accountable has been great. So, I really don't drink alcohol much anymore unless I'm out with friends or
something.
Not that I ever had a drinking problem, because I didn't, but I'm saying like, I'm not going to date parties on a Tuesday, or I'm not going, to go hang out at the library on a Thursday anymore. Like I'm not drinking at home. I'm not even having a glass of wine at dinner.
Yeah.
I'm just cutting it out because I don't feel good when I drink alcohol.
Me and Ben were talking about that a couple podcasts ago too. It's just like, alcohol is such a use of a social setting, but you suffer the consequences every time. And it's like,
and of course I will,
right.
if I'm at an event, but cutting that out was a big change for me. Waking up and feeling refreshed in the morning,
right.
Then getting my sleep schedule on track, like going to bed, waking up, getting a full night's rest, and then increasing my water intake, and then just eating clean foods, no processed foods, no, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to get McDonald's, none of that.
Right.
And I'm not restricting myself completely, but just really trying to get my nutrients in, not focusing on calories, not having a bad relationship with food, but I need to get my protein in because that makes me feel good.
Right.
Just really being focused on what makes me feel good. Like I mentioned earlier, really, really buckling down on the people that make me feel good, things I do that make me feel good.
It's a whole approach. Yeah.
And I always tell myself now, like, I'm really bad with disciplining myself, like with working out. If I get out of it and I'm in a funk, it's so hard for me to get back in the gym.
Yeah.
Because you want to see the results instantly, and that's not how it happens. Like, I want to do 2 workouts and be like, yeah, I have a 6-pack, you know? But that's not how it is. And it was so hard for me to make that change because I hated how I looked. I didn't feel good. I was just so swollen in the face and the body, and I just felt puffy all the time.
Yeah.
And just making that switch with food, just being very aware of what makes me feel good, what helps my digestion, what does not make me feel good. And the biggest thing to cut out was alcohol. And I knew that would be pretty easy because I'm not in a college town anymore.
Right.
I'm not surrounded by the bar scene, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was really easy for me.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy when you switch environments how much easier it becomes.
yeah, the environment is so important.
Yeah.
Even though you don't think about it, I think environment is, at least for me, when it comes to discipline, is like 80%.
Yeah.
Environment is huge for me. If I'm not in the right place where I can, set my mind to things, then I can't function.
Right.
And as much as I loved it here, I think leaving here was also life-changing too, in a different way. I've had my time here. It was absolutely incredible. I got my degree, and now I'm focused on something else. But now, working on my health like this is the best I've felt in my life, and I have lost some weight.
Yep.
And that's because I've gotten rid of inflammation in my body. I put my jeans on now, or my leggings, and I don't feel like
yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but that
it's like a
feeling if you've eaten too much sodium or whatever, and you just feel bloated and gross. Like I don't feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to not anxiety, but not have that feeling of, oh, I feel like crap, I look bad, whatever. Because that also, that made my body dysmorphia worse.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean.
Talk a little bit about that too. Like, I'm glad you went there, but
yes.
Body dysmorphia, and like when you started experiencing, because a lot of people experience this, and men experience this at a drastic level now too. So talk a little bit about that, especially because, I mean, you're around a whole bunch of women who are always auditioning. So
yes. I mean, it is, I gotta say, from that standpoint, like when you're in the lines, casting for Swim Week, you're around all these insanely beautiful girls with amazing bodies, like beautiful face.
Yeah.
In a swimsuit, and I'm like, oh my God,
yep.
These girls are gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to not compare yourself sometimes, but you can't.
Yep.
Like there's a reason why I'm here too.
Right.
Is what you have to say to yourself. But I think I was actually thinking about this the other day. The first time I was very aware of my body, I think I was 7 years old or something. Yeah. I was really young, and I was wearing this like pair of like turquoise skinny jeans or something. And my stomach was hanging out a little bit. And I was like, oh, I need to suck in. I need to like, and I don't know where that came from.
Man, that's crazy how young you.
I was really young when I started being aware in the aspect. And I have always been more on the muscular side with my legs. And I know that obviously muscles weigh more than fat. And I remember in 3rd grade, we all had to like weigh ourselves in class or something. I don't know why we had to do that, but I'm a tall girl. I've always been in the 99th percentile of,
height.
Yes, like all that stuff. I've always been the right weight for my height, besides when I was underweight for a little bit when I was dancing.
Right.
But, like my weight was, almost as much as some of the boys in my class. And I'm like, oh my God, am I fat?
Right.
Like, does that mean I'm fat? But I'm 8 inches taller than the other girls.
Right.
You don't think about that when you're...
You don't know.
10 years old or whatever I was at the time. But it just kind of got increasingly worse. And then when I got to high school, and everyone starts dating and like boys become a thing and all that stuff. And, I started getting more curvy at a younger age than a lot of other people. Just, having hips and having more shape. And I got, a lot of attention for that at school from, guys, girls, whatever. It didn't matter. And it made me very uncomfortable. Like, I noticed that it was my freshman year of high school when it really started to set in, was, I'd be out in public and married men would look at me and things like that, older men. And that just made me very uncomfortable.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it's very common, and their wives know that too. Like these creepy men who are married, and their wives are so insecure about it.
I'm a 14-year-old girl,
right?
And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but I had a few sexual assault experiences too that really affected me in many ways. One of the worst ones being right before college. I'll get into that when I get to that part of the story. But that also set in things for me too, because it wasn't just, I looked at myself in the mirror and always thought I was fat or overweight and and had that mindset of losing weight. And that time period when I was underweight, I think it was sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, around that time, I was so skinny, you could literally see my ribs in my back.
Yeah.
My arms, like I was so tiny. Like, I don't recognize myself when I look at some of the photos. Like, it's almost scary. But I thought I was fat. I was like, oh, I need to lose myself. I was very ripped. Like, but too small. I was too frail for my height.
Yeah.
But I still weighed like 145 or whatever it was at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so overweight. Like, all my friends are complaining about being 115 pounds. But I also, I had more muscle. I was a dancer. I was training, all this stuff. But I think that combination of that and then just having that attention from men, especially older men, just really made me uncomfortable about my body.
Especially when you're that young.
Yeah. And that's something that still bothers me now.
Yeah.
And of course I want to be comfortable and like be able to wear a swimsuit or like a dress or like I want everyone to be able to wear what they want and not have to feel uncomfortable or feel that because of what they're wearing, they're putting themselves in a bad situation. It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
It should never be like that. And I hate when that conversation comes up. Like, I sadly have a few friends that have had, sexual assault cases, and their first question they were asked is, what were you wearing?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When I had the worst experience I've ever had, I don't want to talk about it, but I was wearing an extra large t-shirt, an extra large sweatshirt, and leggings to go to bed.
That's good that you gave that context, because a lot of people think that you're wearing like this really provocative stuff, but it really wasn't. And
now, I model swimwear, if anything, it's giving me more confidence in myself that I can be on a runway and, a one-piece swimsuit or a bikini or whatever and be celebrated for that, being celebrated for being a woman and having cellulite and having stretch marks and whatever. Like, I'm not underweight and 15 or 16 anymore.
Right.
And I've accepted that. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm the happiest I've ever been with how I look.
Yeah.
But just, I hate that conversation of what are you wearing or what were you wearing? I was asked that too when something came up about that. I still am bothered by that experience to this day.
Especially because you weren't,
I had just turned 18.
Right.
When that happened.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But just to give context, that if you're wondering, that's what I was wearing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And
that's what's frustrating. I think that's what's really frustrating about the whole situation is because, like, you were wearing that. Imagine if you were wearing a bikini. Like, it's crazy because most sexual assault cases happen when you're wearing those type of clothing. Yeah. Like when you're wearing bigger over, it's crazy because if that's when they attack the most. A lot of people don't understand that. That's a misconception of sexual assault cases. Yeah.
And I think it's terrible that it happens, and I hate that it's affected me, and I know it affects other people in a negative way, but it has really made me, as well as the always thinking I'm overweight mindset, just because I'm, a taller girl and I have, bigger legs, whatever. That combination and of those things happening to me, I almost felt like I almost felt worthless as a person when those experiences happened to me. Or when, anything like that was said or done. It made me feel worthless. I'm like, I'm just, a body. Nobody cares about who I am or wants to be with me or be in a relationship with me. And that's made me very drawn back when it comes to relationships. Like, I'm very to myself. I don't put myself out there with people. I don't know why I'm even getting into this, but
No, this is good. These are good boundaries.
Yeah, but I have my guard up very high.
Yeah.
But I've just always felt very uncomfortable with the attention like that.
Yeah.
And of course I want to feel like, oh, I have a dress on, I feel sexy and all
Right,
this
right.
stuff. Like, of course, like who doesn't?
And two, I think that's one thing when you were in a relationship in college and then you got out of that relationship that you were in when you were dating your boyfriend at the time. It's just like you started to realize those things because as you're young, you just don't know. You're not aware of certain things that you're doing that you're starting to realize people are like, oh, wait, does this person even know who I am? Does this person even know what I like to do?
Yeah.
Like, and it's crazy too. Like I've been there too in that position and it's like, it's frustrating.
It is, yeah. But I've gotten to a point where, like, I've seen a therapist and, I've done things for myself and I do feel empowered now. I don't feel like a victim. I don't want to be that person and be like, oh, I want you to feel bad for me. Like, it was a horrible experience. It still bothers me to this day. And I think it always will and for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You just learn how to manage it.
But I've come to terms with it. It happened. That's okay. And it doesn't make me worth any less as a person.
Yeah.
It's not my fault that happened. I didn't do anything to cause that to happen. Mm-hmm. And realizing that has also been very helpful for me. And I really hope that everyone out there who's, had an experience like that affects them, that they come to a point where, that they can feel empowered again and get their power back. Because
it does strip your power. That happens.
And it still bothers me, and it literally makes me look at my body differently. Like that is a way body dysmorphia too.
Yeah.
Just being like, I'm not good enough besides my physical being.
Yeah.
Like that's how it made me feel. And then starting to know that I am good enough, and I know I'm a good person, and I know the value I bring as a daughter or a friend or a girlfriend or whatever it is. Finding that within myself has been very big for me.
Yeah. And because a lot of people misconceptions of stress, because relationships can be a stressor. So
absolutely,
if you're dating or engaged or married and you're in a relationship that's constantly stressed to the max, you're going to be highly inflamed a lot. Mm-hmm. And no matter how clean you eat, no matter how much you work out, no matter how much you take care of yourself, you can't counterbalance those things. It's like like you said, it's a holistic approach. And I think you did that so well. It's like, that's the conversations we had a lot in the consult room was like, hey, what do you want from a boyfriend or a future husband? Like, what do you see? And it really woke you up like, wow, like I didn't realize I wanted all these things, And it was really, really cool for you to see that. And then it also gave you some like insight when you were dating to be like, okay, do they have these traits? If they don't, I don't want to sacrifice these traits that they currently hold. Like they might suit somebody else, but not me.
Yeah. I feel like coming here was also life-changing for me in many ways. And that also sounds cheesy to say, but, with fitness, my fitness approach, it's always been, I'm training for this competition, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I never really found anything that worked for me in college. And then I started gaining some weight because I wasn't training 5 days a week anymore.
Right.
And I'm eating normally how I'm supposed to, and I'm drinking alcohol on top of that. I started gaining weight pretty quickly. Nothing to healthy weight, nothing outrageous. But that was hard to accept when I didn't fit in my jeans anymore, things like that. But coming here has really not only changed my mindset of my fitness, but my health in general, that including my physical health, but also my mental health, my health when it comes to relationships with people. Like really just sitting down with you and having those tough conversations when stuff is going on, and being able to be vulnerable has really helped me rewire my brain, literally.
Yeah.
Literally having to rewire my brain how to approach things, and setting long-term goals and short-term goals, not for a dance competition, but for life. Whether that's to, cut off a friend, or be like, have a better relationship with my parents, or
Yeah, that's really good.
do better in school, whatever it is. I've felt very supported through here for every goal. Like, I remember when we had that conversation about Miami Swim Week, when, this was in the works, and I was like, okay, I want to be in shape for that.
Yep.
Nothing outrageous, because I can't change my measurements.
Because that's what they need.
Yes, but to be, ready for swimwear.
Right.
And then, I had my appendix surgery.
I remember that.
And
scary.
that was tough. And the team here really helped me through that. I was like, okay, well, it's over. I have these scars now. I'm swollen.
Yeah, I remember
I
that. You
can't
were
go
really
to the
upset.
bathroom normally anymore.
Yeah.
But, having that surgery, learning how to work with myself, it has been a work in process still. I mean, it's taken me over a year to figure out what food makes me feel good and stuff like that. But I really think having that happen helped me even more to really buckle down on my health and fitness and everything. And now being very aware of what food I eat that makes me feel good, what food I eat that makes me feel terrible. Some things I'm more sensitive to digestion wise, and that's fine.
Yep.
Learning to cut that out. And boom, inflammation was gone in a couple weeks. I was like, whoa, what? Mm-hmm. Just making those tiny changes and being more aware of what you're doing changes your life, literally. And that's nothing about losing weight. Like, awesome that I got rid of some inflammation in my body and I feel better. Like, that's what I wanted. I wasn't like, I want to drop numbers on the scale.
Right.
And that's always the mindset I've had with my body dysmorphia. It's like, I need to weigh less. I need to do this or do that. I need to be super skinny, or, whatever it is. Oh, I'm not like pretty enough, whatever. Yep. But now literally having that approach that I want to feel good. I want to eat to feel good. I want to work out to feel good. Like, physically, I want to wake up in the morning. I want to feel great, put my clothes on, not feel like crap, putting my jeans on, whatever. Like, that has changed my mindset completely. Not being so fixated on numbers, on things.
And it's crazy too, because like, you have such good emotional reports, and you can explain your emotions very well. Like, AC was on the podcast last time, and she can explain her emotions really well too. And you're in that same category. And just talking to you with tons of consults that I've done, but like, you wouldn't listen to your emotional reports because everyone else was in your ear, like, And so I think that was one of the big things of kind of like going back to, you said about rewiring your brain, was actually listen to what your body was telling you, and instead of what everyone else is trying to tell you.
And it's a work in progress. It's something I'm still doing as we speak every day.
Yeah.
But, that's how life is. Everything is a journey, and learning to appreciate the journey is another thing you have to learn. Not everything is the final product on paper. You have to get there. You have to work on getting there. And it has not been an easy journey for me with many different things. And I'm someone who is a very big people pleaser. I want to help everyone. I want to make everyone happy. I want to make everyone laugh. I'm always that friend, sometimes I'm not the best to come to if it's something serious, because I'm a goofball. But if you're having a bad day, I want to make you laugh. I want to make you happy. Like, if you're around me, I want you to be like, okay, like, I want to brighten your mood, like I want that. And it has been hard, because I've let people take advantage of me in a friendship or whatever it is.
So glad you brought this up.
Because of that.
Yep.
Because I want to be like that comfort or that safety net for my friends and my boyfriend or family, or whoever it may be. I want to be that person where they know they're not going to be like upset. And it got to a point where it's just like, I wasn't taking care of myself. And it was draining me to help other people, be nice to other people, and be so accommodating. And I had to get to a realization. I sat down with you, and I was like, why am I breaking my back for people that won't ever do anything for me?
That was a really good question you asked that.
Yeah. Like, why am I going out of my way to be so helpful and do this? be the best that I can and get nothing in return. And that was hard to start. I had to get to a point where I was cutting friends off and, releasing people out of my life.
And what's interesting too, I remember you sitting here, and I usually use the same language too. It's like, I'm just too nice. I'm just too nice. And it's like, you are nice, but there's no such thing as being too nice. You're either nice or you're naive. And so it's like, and that same goes for me. I was just like, we were just expecting these unrealistic expectations and thinking that everyone is nice as us, when that's just not the reality of the world.
Yeah.
Most people
Not
don't
everyone
do that.
has pure intentions.
Right.
But one thing that I've always wanted to stay true to myself with is no matter what happens to me that's bad, no matter what I go through, regardless, I'm always going to keep that in my heart. I'm always going to be a pure intention person and mean well for everyone, even if they've hurt me.
Yep. That's one thing you've done really well that I want to tell you that, like, no matter what, like friendships, past relationships, your parents, whatever you've done, like whether they wrong you or you wrong them, you've always done a really good way to navigate that, where you try to leave off as much peace as you potentially can if the other person is willing to do so.
Yes.
And I think you've done that a really good job. You've really floated through that.
And also accepting, as sad as it is, not every person is going to be a constant in your life, even if you want them to be.
Right.
Even if you want nothing more, they're not.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yep.
And even with friendships when they end, I know I'm not a perfect person by any means. I try to be forgiving, but I have my limits on that. If you're constantly just being a horrible person to me, then I'm done with you. But I know I'm not perfect. I know I hurt people's feelings. I know I've said and done things to hurt people before. I know that. And people have done that to me too, and that's okay. No one's perfect.
Right.
But being able to accept that and forgive is something that I want to do and work on, and that's okay. And coming to terms with some people aren't meant to be in your life. You can appreciate the beautiful moments and the fun memories that make you smile that you had with them. But another thing I'm bad about is holding grudges about things. I have a very, very bad habit of, if something like traumatizing happens to me in a relationship or a friendship or whatever it is, I have a really hard time of letting go of it because of how I felt in that moment. Because the emotion consumes me.
Yep.
And I have a really hard time to let go of that.
Yep.
And, regardless of who it is, that's something I am still actively trying to combat with myself mental health wise, is that I need to let go of this happening 4 years ago.
Yeah. Keeps coming up. Why does it keep coming up?
Yeah. There's certain things that happened to me, when I think about when I was 16 or 15 that still bother me, and I'm 22, and I'm like, okay, Amanda, it's been 6 years.
Right.
It's time to move on.
Right.
So, that's been another battle within myself.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time letting go.
And it's really cool too, is I think what you've really learned a lot too is it's okay to forgive somebody, but also let them go away.
Yes. And that's,
because last time you thought forgiveness, then you guys got to go start back to where you were at.
And that's not always the case.
That's just
and
not.
That's been so hard to accept.
Yeah.
Even, people I thought were my best friend or a close friend, and seeing their true colors and having to let them go, that's so hard.
It's sad.
I almost think in some scenarios, losing a friend is harder than a breakup in a relationship.
Yep, depending on how deep the friendship was and how long it was. Because some friendships, I've had a friendship that was almost 17 years. And I don't know if I told you this, but this was a couple years ago where he just kept lying to us and wasn't being honest with us. And then just completely really cut us off. And we were willing to work through it. Both of my other two friends. And we grew up together.
Yeah.
It's hard. And that hurt bad.
It's really hard.
Yeah, I had to seek advice, therapy too on my end. But friendships, relationships are tough, and they're stressors.
They are. And that's another big thing that's helped with my inflammation, my hormone balance, all this stuff in my body I've really wanted to work on health wise. Releasing people out of my life that made me anxious. I have anxiety. I'm diagnosed with anxiety. I don't take medicine for it because I don't want to be dependent on a substance like that. That's just my personal decision.
Yeah.
Should I take it? Yes. But, I try to live with it and combat it because I don't want it to I don't know. I just don't want to mess with the side effects.
Yeah, and two, I think you have used anxiety to help instead of masking it with medicine for your personal experience. You use that to be like, okay, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. It's like your check engine light in your car.
Yes.
You're like, okay, hey, like I don't want to mask this because this helps give me an indicator that I need to change something.
Yeah. So it's something I'm still actively working on, but releasing people that made me anxious, like you shouldn't have to be friends with someone where you feel like you can't tell them something, or being like, hey, I'm gonna go to the grocery store right now. Like, having friends that respect you and your time and let you be an individual and also hold you accountable is so important.
Yeah.
You know, when it's a friend where you feel like you can't be yourself and you have that anxiety, you shouldn't have a bad gut feeling in your stomach and have, you know, these feelings of anxiety when you're going to hang out with a friend or a boyfriend or whatever. That's not how it should be. That's not how love feels.
Right.
Whether it's a friendship or a relationship or your family.
Yep.
It should not be like that.
Yep.
And that was a very hard thing for me. And I had to let go of some people that I really didn't want to because of all the wonderful memories and stuff we had together. But I'm like, if this is causing me more pain than happiness to have this person in my life, then maybe I should, you know, let go.
Yep.
And that's not easy.
No.
It was not easy for me because I want to be everyone's friend and I want to be nice and whatever, but that's not always
realistic.
not always how it goes.
Mm-mm. I'm glad you brought that up, and to just like to talk about the stress and the consults you had and to rewire your brain and how the inflammation helped you. Like, that's a huge difference what separates other gyms from us. So I think that's been really, really cool to kind of see, like, because we don't want people coming into, like me and you talked about this before in your consults all the time. It's like, we don't want it coming in here people like where they're just going to idolize exercise. It's like, no. Exercise is one tool, but it's not going to fix everything in your life.
Yeah.
We definitely want people to move.
Yes. Yes.
And move more. And you're doing that. And
that's one thing too with this whole like change approach that we've worked on the last 2 years, because it isn't an overnight thing.
Right.
But, you know, setting the goals that we set every month and checking in, and that's so helpful. Because I'm not someone who ever gives myself credit for anything. Like, I've had all these incredible experiences in my life. Like, I am so happy with where I'm at and everything I've gotten to experience in my life and all the travel I've gotten to do. And, you know, I thank my parents for everything. I wouldn't have been at Ole Miss without them. I wouldn't have lived in the U.S. I wouldn't have had all these cool experiences. You know, they worked hard to immigrate here and give us a great life. And like, literally, I always say this, if I died tomorrow, I'd be happy with all the incredible things I've experienced. But at the same time, I don't give myself credit for anything. Yeah. Like, whether it's, you know, I'm the first woman in my family with a college degree. I don't give myself credit for that. I don't give myself credit for my 8-year goal of making it to Worlds and dancing. I don't give myself credit for, you know, booking all these super cool modeling jobs. I don't ever sit down and I'm like, I'm proud of myself. Yep. I don't do that, and I need to. Yep. I don't know why I don't, but
it's crazy too. I remember you saying that in the consults. We would do your quick wins and you would be like, I don't know.
Yeah. So we would talk about things and you'd be like, wow, like look at all the, you know, the difference that has happened in this that we talked about 3 months ago. And it doesn't have to do with, oh, you know, your abs are more toned out or whatever. No, like it was never a conversation of that. Mm-mm. It was like, oh my gosh, you've grown so much in this way because you did X, Y, and Z. Yep. And I'm like, whoa, I'm actually doing that. Like,
you're walking out of the room all jolly.
Yeah. Because I'm not someone that ever gives myself credit, and just hearing that and you like paying attention to things that I'm not even aware of. Yeah. That's really awesome. Yeah. So it's been great.
What would you say that separates gyms like us versus others?
I think the personal connection here. Yeah. You know, I knew how to work out, but I just didn't enjoy it. Like when I danced, it was like, okay, I'm working out to, you know, have better performance or whatever it is. But when I got to college, like I struggled so hard with finding that happy place with being active. Yeah. Because I'm going to the gym on campus and there's all these guys like flexing their muscles in the mirror. I'm like, I'm uncomfortable to be in here. Like,
guys, if you're doing that, it's really weird.
yeah, no, guys, girls, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I don't want to go to the gym and see like the guy from class that asked for my phone number, like that's not what I'm trying to get at. But like,
that's funny.
I think it's very important to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Especially if you're at a point where you're just new to working out or just getting started. Getting over that initial hump before you start seeing results is the hardest part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Getting past that is so difficult.
Yeah.
I experienced it this summer. I was like, I'm working out every single day. I'm going on walks. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm moving my body. I'm doing yoga, Pilates, going to the gym. I'm doing all this. I'm eating healthy. I don't look any different. What's wrong?
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, I was like, oh. So it's like, but it comes. You have to be consistent. But I think it's also so important to not be obsessive. This is another thing I wanted to bring up about the modeling stuff.
Ooh.
So I have done crash diets for jobs before just because I'm like, oh, I still want to go out and have friends, go out with my friends and do all this stuff. And then it's like, oh, I have to go to castings for swim week in 2 weeks. So I'm going to, like not starve myself, but completely cut out certain foods that I need. Like I would have these obsessive crash diets where I would like only eat protein all day and maybe like a couple vegetables, no carbs, nothing. Like I was so tired, felt terrible. I lost a ton of weight, sure.
Oh yeah.
But I felt horrible. And then when I would get off of it, I would just swell up again. So not restricting yourself. Of course, like making better choices. I think the best thing for me has been making lifestyle changes. Like, we've talked about food wise, being more aware of what I eat.
How it makes you feel.
Yeah. What proteins I like, what proteins that make me feel good, increasing my protein. Yep. Eating good blend of vegetables, that I like, and finding the right carbs that are right for you, because you need carbs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can't really eat pasta or bread or like heavier carbs like that because they just really mess with my gut after my surgery. And I just would eat stuff and I'm like, why am I so bloated and in pain and nothing works? But finding carbs that work for me, like I really like quinoa, I really like rice, brown rice, whatever. Like finding the stuff that works for me has been really good. Yeah. And then of course, if I want a piece of chocolate cake, like me and my mom and my brother, it's a Swedish thing too. It's called Saturday candy. So on Saturday you get to like have something unhealthy.
Oh my gosh.
So like when I was a kid, we'd like go to the store and they have these boxes and you put like candy in a bag and like pay per weight. And that would be our Saturday candy. And that's just like a common concept in Sweden. Yeah. And Sweden in general is like a very healthy, active population of people. Eat very clean, and so sometimes on Saturdays you're like, okay, we'll wait until Saturday to have the unhealthy thing or whatever. That might be too much for people, but like just a majority of the stuff you eat should be good to make you feel good.
That's right.
To help your body function, to help your muscles move and your joint, like all that stuff. Your food is so important. Yep. But also, if you want to have ice cream, go for it. Right. Like, that's fine as long as you're getting the other stuff in. Don't just eat the ice cream and then don't eat the other stuff. That's right. Like, so you have helped me tremendously with having that approach with food, because when I was dancing, like I thought about it the other day, I would, have like a 6-hour dance class and then I'd eat like some mac and cheese and a piece of bread after. Like, what is that doing for me? Absolutely nothing.
Wow. You've come a long way, especially just with that. That's incredible. In closing, where can people find you if they want to know more about modeling? And also,
I guess the best way is my Instagram. My Instagram is now my business account. Okay. Because I have brands and stuff reach out to me on there and whatnot. but yeah, Instagram, honestly.
What is your handle? Like, what is it?
It's just at Amanda Trolla. It's just my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have her name in the description. So
yes, I use TikTok a little. I don't really post on TikTok. I posted one video of my India trip and went viral, and I got like 250,000 likes on it. And I was like, what the heck? like I just go on TikTok to watch it sometimes, but I'm trying to be better with social media, but I'm big on Instagram. So if anyone ever has any questions about modeling or anything, feel free to reach out.
Yeah.
I actually helped a girl who goes to Ole Miss here get started with modeling, and she just signed with a very big agency in Miami.
Wow.
So I'm happy to share everything that I know, and I will be honest because, it's not for everyone.
That's awesome. Amanda,
yes.
Well, I appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
See ya. See y'all.
That was so good.